This is Robert Martellacci, the Mindshare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine, and welcome to this week in Canadian EdTech special edition. I'm honored to have joined me for a Mindshare Learning moment, Nancy Knowlton, who is the CEO and founder of Nariva, and today we'll be talking about the future of the hybrid classrooms. Thank you for joining me, Nancy Knowlton.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, a little bit about Nancy. Nancy is the co-founder and president and CEO of Nariva. She was previously president and CEO of Smart Technologies, one of the top education brands. You may recall Smartboards, which she co-founded in 1987 with Dave Martin. Both companies have been focused on creativity and group collaboration tools that have transformed the way people work and learn. Nancy has contributed to several public commissions on education and private advisories on business and received numerous business awards, including in January 22. Nancy and Dave were awarded the Meritorious Service Decorations, Civil Division, for their 30-year contribution to improving education for children in Canada and abroad. The awards were presented by the Office of the Secretary of the Governor General. Wow, what an accolade that is, Nancy. Congratulations. How does that make you feel about your time and education and your
Yeah,
contribution?
it was a nice kind of out of the blue award. Of course, you really never have any awareness that these awards are being considered. And so receiving the information that we were going to receive that award was actually quite, well, first of all, stunning, but secondly, very, very nice for Dave and me.
I recall it was said that it took 20 years for Smart to be an overnight success, and now fast forward to 2022, and here you are after transitioning from Smart to creating Nariva. It's the acceleration effect is phenomenal in the uptake of technology because of the pandemic and mission critical tools that were needed to sustain learning.
Yeah, it's been an accelerant for sure, and I don't want to minimize the sort of negative impact on families and
Hmm.
businesses and livelihoods at all, but there were some good elements that came from the pandemic. There's that old expression, necessity is the mother of invention,
Hmm.
and I think that after people were kind of rocked back on their heels, they got down to the business of keeping on and trying to have a level of normalcy in life and making do because there was just no visibility about what was ahead. So I think amidst all of the badness, there was some goodness as well.
Absolutely. It's a good segue to my first question for you around sustaining learning and really enhancing the experience. There's been a lot of criticism around online learning, and people have been zoomed out, sort of, uh, is the expression that we've heard a number of times. But you really paid attention to what the customers wanted, and that seems to drive your product roadmap, if you will, and the launch of Nariva XT that you announced recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say, and I think we all need to keep this top of mind, that there's an emergency and there's flexibility. And a lot of what happened in the pandemic was done as a consequence of really what was an emergency scenario. But we do need to really focus on what is needed from a flexibility perspective for the future. And I think a lot of parents really latched on to some of the key words that came out during the pandemic, namely hybrid and high flex, and
Hmm.
really directed, as did a lot of teachers as well, some anger and unhappiness with those modes of teaching and learning. And I totally get it. But if we think instead of an emergency situation and we say flexibility, what do those tools really offer education from the perspective of flexibility moving forward? Well, they're able to provide students who live in remote communities the same education, coursework, and experience that students who perhaps live in a more urban setting where teachers for all subjects at all grade levels are more readily available. So it'll bring a higher quality and a broader range of learning alternatives to remote students. But we can look as well at some of the emerging trends, and they're very seriously negative trends in terms of teacher availability and substitute availability. We're hearing from a lot of our customers that they need to think about how they put a qualified teacher in front of their classrooms, in front of their students, when teachers seem to be really retiring or moving into other jobs at quite significant rates.
And so, online learning has really come of age in that regard because we hear of the shortages. I've heard of stories where, you've got four rural schools that team up and collapse into one, leveraging your type of technology. So you've really come of age in a sense, and timing's really important, but it's also really important to educate uh, the market, if you will. And you're not only focused on K-12, you also cover post-secondary and higher ed, from what I gather.
Yeah, exactly. And so let's be clear, we're not advocating that all learning goes online. It's kind of like the situation where if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? That's not what we're saying. There's a time and a place for the virtual element, and we know it's hard to engage particularly younger students in a virtual mode for the full day.
Absolutely.
So we're not advocating that. But what if have a teacher shortage, a substitute shortage, and you've got a number of grade 3 classes, and your teacher is out on maybe a week of sick leave. What do you do? Do you stop learning in the other grade 3 classroom whose teacher is out? Well, how do you adapt and maybe use technology for that whole class part of lesson delivery, and have a substitute or an alternate monitor in the classroom with the other students? And so thinking that teachers will just take to this and say, oh yeah, I got it, because they're adept at using technology in their own lives, I think would be also wrong. So maybe providing meaningful learning experiences for teachers to understand how they could use technology in appropriate ways to extend their classroom to individual students who are at home, or connect to other classrooms, or to bring in other experts, maybe an astronaut, a scientist, or somebody from an art gallery or museum.
Absolutely. We subscribe to the notion that, it's beyond the four walls, and the community is a school. Learning's happening everywhere. We're doing work integrated learning with university and high school students and co-op opportunities. So there is the opportunity to, as you suggested, bringing in world experts. And you are a global company as well, are you not?
We are. We are indeed.
And so, talk to me about some of the tool set that enables the high flex hybrid. There's been so many new definitions. When I completed my
Mhm.
master's at Tech at Pepperdine, we did blended learning back in 2006.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a whole new language here. I think the thing that many people can kind of latch on to is that older expression like distance education or blended learning. Hybrid and high flex, they almost feel like they're a little bit tainted in today's environment. But really, what we try to provide is a tool set that adds on to technology that's already in the classroom. So our tool set would go into a classroom where a teacher is already using an interactive whiteboard with resources available from the internet and good internet connectivity in the classroom. And perhaps students have their own devices or not, but a teacher is using technology tools in the classroom. And so our product is a package that adds on to that existing technology that will deliver audio and video to connected remote participants. And so it could be a classroom or it could be individual students.
Fascinating. And now that we're getting back in the saddle in with conferences, you have done conferences in the past. You will be present at some of the events, no doubt. Talk to me a little bit about how you are kind of spreading the word on Nariva XT and other tools that you have available.
Well, in about 3 weeks, we're going to be attending the big BET conference in London. It was delayed from the end of January now to the end of March. And because it really attracts people from around the world, I think that there's a heightened sense of caution around pulling everyone together. We have no idea if there are going to be masks or no masks, but we're very much looking forward to the opportunity to engage with educators from a broad spectrum, not just in the UK, but really from around the world. And then outside of that, we're working with a number of resellers. So we have them all across North America and distributors internationally. And they are holding a collection of small events. They're reaching out to their customer bases really to introduce them to the tool set that we offer and explain really how we're really adapted to the full classroom needs. And so it's kind of like telling one individual at a time. We certainly hope that people will talk to their colleagues and tell them what the tool sets are, because I think we really are quite revolutionary in the approach that we're taking, and that is giving teachers flexibility, ease of use, and at the same time, full class audio coverage.
I love the notion of giving the teachers what they want and paying attention to your market. So, talk to me about your product roadmap and how you embrace that. And is that something that was a learning from your days, leading smart technologies?
Yeah, you bet. I would say we learn more from our customers than from learning or from talking among ourselves. You really need to get out into the wild. And sometimes people aren't adept at telling you exactly what they want, but they will ask good questions and kind of frame things around the edges. And it's our job to interpret that. I will say that when we started Nareva, we had a focus on audio. And very quickly, as we were into the higher education market space, and then as we began to develop a customer base in K to 12, they told us very clearly what they needed from us was an integrated solution, so camera plus the audio, with the absolute non-negotiable precondition that it had to be simple for the teacher to use. And so we took that away and created really a solution after we had come with just our audio product to the market. So, again, a learning from our customers that helped us very much tighten up the focus on our product offering.
Fascinating. And I pulled up your website, and your technology is there visibly, and you've got a tracking camera as well, if I'm not mistaken.
We do, and really what that's intended to do is to give the teacher the freedom to move around the classroom, to engage more directly with students. And when you put on auto tracking mode, it just follows the physical shape of the person. And so you can move around and have the image that the remote connected students will see. And so there's no sort of herky jerkiness to that. The teacher doesn't have to worry
Right.
about, going to a certain location or manually make the camera follow her. So it just is all based upon ease of use and keeping things as natural for the teacher as possible.
I have to ask, thank you for that. I have to ask you, because women in tech, we really like to nurture that, and STEM and coding has come on the scene, and we've been involved in a couple of esports initiatives. And one of our contest winners from last year was a teacher in Manitoba who inspired her team of girls at middle school to redesign the school in Minecraft. What was the hook for you to embrace technology and become a techie CEO of sorts?
You know, I'm laughing as I think about my answer, and I hope that you laugh as well. But it
Yeah.
was it was my husband,
Okay.
and he is a real tech guy. Before I met him, he
Okay.
already had been deeply involved in technology. And he started thinking about a new technology area that ultimately led to the smart board. And really, we found ourselves with highly complementary skill sets. He was
Wow.
deep technology and some business. And I was deep business and, well, at that time, probably little to no technology. And
Right.
I had been a university instructor for a number of years. And so I had a little bit of a connection into education.
Right.
So, we just kind of moved along together in unison. I didn't start in the company really at the same time that Dave did. I
Hmm.
tried to stay in my role as a chartered accountant in a CA firm, but that
Right.
was just deadly. I had to leave that to really focus full time in this area. And it's been a learning experience from customers, from the technology front, and all of these things since that time.
Well, I could relate. My twin boys are now CPAs, and audit is quite a ground. It's a great stepping stone to something else. But it's about the growth mindset, isn't it? And having a vision
Yeah,
of
it sure
creating,
is.
and
Yeah, it
and
is.
and the smart board reminds me of the something that came out that we didn't expect. Right? You didn't. No one expected the iPad, right? So
No,
sometimes,
no,
it was like the famous quote, if with Ford, the founder of Ford, and if someone asks me, if I ask people what they want faster horses versus a car, right?
exactly.
So
Yeah.
to your point earlier about listening to what's needed and problem solving what the future might look like. So, well, kudos to you for, not sailing into the sunset and choosing to make a greater impact on education, because you could have easily, right? Yeah, gone on to do other things, but you stayed in it. And I find that, I was at a university as an administrator prior to joining Kevin O'Leary's team at the Learning Company, launching the Learning Company Software School division in Canada. And I was always passionate about making an impact in the future of learning. And I've never been more excited for education. And talk to me about what gives you hope for the future of education.
Well, every new student coming into school gives me hope. I just have to go into a classroom and see the eagerness, the happiness. And I'm not just talking about the students, I'm talking about the teachers as well. I know that teachers have gone through a lot, but there's still really hope within teachers that they're going to be able to reach their young students and make an impact. And really, I think that that's what drives us all. We all have to make a living somehow, and so we have our own way of making a living. But when you can make a difference in the way that things are done and how people enjoy what they're doing, that really is rewarding in and of itself.
With that, Nancy Knowlton, thank you so much for your time this afternoon to share your latest product innovations at Nariva.
Well, thank you for having me.
That was Nancy Knowlton, the co-founder and CEO of Nariva Inc. My name is Robert Renalacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare Learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.